The best fighters in the world are in a very trying time right now because there's such an abundance of boxing opportunity and a lot of disappointments happening. And we're going to show you and speak specifically to how do you manage yourself as a professional fighter in the day and age of such a robust social media and just the politics of boxing interfering. And I'll speak to why are the belts becoming less and less significant the bigger the boxing stars get, and the benefit of the boxing stars having the opportunity now to actually build their own brands so that they don't have to leverage the belts. They can actually leverage themselves in negotiation. But this weekend we got Tim Zoo versus Mendoza coming up, and there's really solid talks of finally the Mexican monster and my guy Benavidez getting into the ring with slick southpaw Demetrius Andrade. So a lot is happening in boxing, but one of the continual things is going on. So special shouts out to you. Thank you guys for taking the time to tune in. Take a second and let me know exactly where that you're watching from as we get and dive directly into the better side of the sport of boxing and some of the politics that actually go on in building fights of that magnitude. And special shouts out to you, my friend. What's going on? Everything is gravy. Um, I see your website. I don't know what it's about. Let us know what you do. But when we dive into this, we got great fights coming up. Still, we've had such a robust year. The Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo was one of the things that we have to look out for moving forward in boxing as fans, because they sold 1.1 million pay-per-views during for that fight. And what that did is it gave fighters who have game plan B, which is to survive, it gave them due cause to do that again. And that's not what we want to see as fans. The people who are in the sport of boxing don't want to see someone come and lay down. And I don't say that that's what he did, because if you look at some of his highlights, Jermell Charlo boxed a decent fight. He just was missing certain things. And here's what I'm going to tell you about levels. When you are a refined boxer and you have the master craft and skill, what can happen is once you are able to fight at your weight class, when you've mastered the actual science of boxing, you can go up in weight class and fight at a very high level as well. But here's the deal: when you have not mastered the science of boxing, not being really good at fisticuffs and moving your feet a little bit, but I mean taking scenarios and turning those scenarios around, hand skills, defense, counterpunching, these things all point to your knowledge and comprehension of boxing. And that's what you'll see. Now, when you see a Manny Pacquiao, when you see a Sweet Pea Pernell Whitaker, you see Willie Pep, you see Floyd Mayweather, Bernard Hopkins, James Toney, Roy Jones Jr. See, those guys can move up because they have certain abilities that supersede whatever their actual boxing IQ is or talent, and they can implement certain things to overcome situations. So if you have a fighter that you like, who's your favorite fighter? And I can tell you exactly, are they built to go up? Because there has to just be particular skills and techniques and intangibles that these fighters possess. I'm going to take a question right here. Uh, how do you regret and overcome a knockdown and not survive but turn the tide and win the fight? So this is a perfect question. I actually spoke to this. Great question. He wants to know, how do you regain your focus and overcome being knocked down. So this is the fun part about teaching. When you're teaching, what you can do is, when you get knocked down, first you look to the corner, you gather your thoughts, you don't try your legs. I'm gonna walk you through it because this is in our art of sparring teaching. We got it. It's called situational boxing. So it deals with cuts, swelling, bleeding profusely, or being knocked down. Here's what you do when you go down, or if you really hurt bad. Charlo took a knee. You want to get down and take that knee, do your count, look at your corner, and you and your corner should have established a protocol. So there's particular signals. If he does like that, that means you circle this guy until you get your legs back under you, or test your legs because you're down on one knee. So you don't know if you have the actual wherewithal or if your legs are talking to your brain. Key, if he says, then that means get in there close, make him think you're going to box him. But soon as he throws, you slip and go in there and tie him up, turn him, and what we call changing the tide by using cagey tactics. And cagey tactics are tying them up, roughing them up, touching them on the hip. You know what I'm saying? Grabbing them behind the elbows, making the fight ugly until you recoup. And then he gets frustrated because he wants to finish you off. And that's when you take the tide and you turn it. Most of the time, the guy who knocked the guy down actually is more susceptible to getting knocked down. And that's when you change angles on him. You get on your back feet and set him up because he's not going to take away that aggression that he has because he's tried to knock you down again. He's going to try to knock you down again. You use that momentum and that aggression against him. And so that's when you get in the pocket and you set it up. You set the pocket up. You know he's coming. He's mad. You've made him miss. You've tied him up. You've recovered your energy. He's trying to get you back to that space. That's his job. That's his only job. And that's when you set him up. And in practice, you should have gotten this down. A great technique to use is coming out of the Philly shell, rolling shoulder. Watch Bernard Hopkins. Watch James Lights Out Tony. Watch Archie the Old Mongoose Mora. Guys who really mastered this. Not Ezra Charles, but Jersey Joe Walcott. Guys who just, and I'm giving you examples because Dwight Muhammad Cowie is the kind of guy that can just take what you got, roll it off. Go pull up Cowie, Qawi versus Holyfield 1, and you'll see. And or you can pull up James Lights Out Tony versus Iran Barkley. Go pull that up, and you'll understand what happens when you can set a guy up, boom, and counter him and knock him out. And that's what happens because a fight, styles make fight. If you got an aggressive fighter and they're coming onto a counter puncher, charge Ali, charge Bernard Hopkins, charge James Tony, charge Mayweather. Like, there are certain people you just don't charge because what's going to happen is you're going to eat all of that anger and you're going to taste what your anger felt like on their fists. And so that's what you do, man. You get your legs, you check your corner, then you get up and test where your legs are. You feel your legs, you do the setup, you get on your back foot, or you get in the paint and start roughing the situation up until you recover fully. And that's your recuperative powers. And you have to learn those kind of things. That's kind of what we are showing you daily with our skills training guide. We're showing you tips. See, there's a multitude of ways that you learn boxing. You can have it in your body, right? You got to have it in your body. That's number one. Number two, you got to have it here, though, because when your body's not acting right, you got to have something to rely on. That's your frontal cortex. That means it's what's stamped in your brain. That's why it's good to read your programs so you can have it. Okay, I know what I'm supposed to do. I can't really tell what my trainer's doing in the corner because there's so much noise. There's so many lights. It's just the referee's getting in the way. It's so many distractions. What do I do when I get knocked down? Coach Bradley said, Refer to the first thing. Take the knee and make sure when you get up that you know how to get and run behind the referee with your footwork. Get behind the referee and the referee shields you. And then the minute he gets out of your way, you set the guy up to throw a punch and you slide it and you tie him up, get behind the elbows. And we practice clinching every Thursday. That's all we do, inside fighting, all of these tactics. And that's in here. This is the art of sparring skills training. And it's also inside of the 52 weeks skills training guide that you guys have been actually ordering. And so make sure when you're looking at that guide that you look at the tutorials that's in the School of Boxing so that you can really see us do the demonstrations and learn how important those demonstrations are when you're doing these type of scenarios, because they will happen. You're going to get hurt. Charlo got hurt. He knew what to do. He survived that round and finished the fight. But when you got another level of it, you know what to do, and you're going to not only survive, but you're going to win that fight. And so that 52-week guide, art of sparring, whatever type skills, if that's kind of down your lane, if that's kind of the lane, if boxing is not just a hobby for you and you're serious about boxing, you could be training or fighting type skills, get that. It's on it. You can only access that through this page on that link by doing that. That's the only way you can get it for that rate. So good question. Thank you for the excellent answer. They become vulnerable. You must listen to your corner. Yeah, you must not just not listen to the, you just can't listen to the corner. You got to already have that strategy intact. It has to already be in play in your brain and in your muscle memory. So that's why it's important that you have a training system in place, because you're not, when you're dazed, like Charlo even said it, I've never been dazed like that before. You know what I'm saying? Because he's usually the bigger, stronger guy. You can get buzzed, but when he said it, it's in one of the reels that I put up. I made sure that I put the highlight conversation and topics in the video when I show it to you. So if you haven't watched my reels, make sure you go to the page and watch the reels and watch that one specifically, where it speaks exactly to that point where sometimes you don't know what to do when you get hurt as a fighter, because when you go up in weight and you haven't fought at that weight class before, you get hit and you get hurt a different kind of way. That's why Ryan Garcia didn't get up from that shot. It was more or less not just a body shot. Even Sean Porter proclaimed this as well. The same way I'm doing is because you're in a situation that you haven't been in. Most of the time, you're fighting guys that you can handle when you get up. There are guys that are in your weight class that don't have a superpower. Tank has a superpower. He can elude punches. He knew how to fight in the paint, and he know how to counter you. And that's what he did. In the second round, he countered him, put him down. In the seventh round, he hit him to the liver out of the break. Ryan Garcia is a devastating puncher and got good boxing abilities. The thing about it, he hadn't fought a slick fighter that has monster power and extremely elusive with great footwork. So he was in a situation he hadn't been in. World-class fighter, arguably in the top 5 pound for pound, and some people's top 3 pound for pound already. Set in the top 2 of face of boxing. It used to be Anthony Joshua and Canelo. Now it's Canelo and Tank. You know, the numbers tell the story. And so that's what you got to kind of keep in mind. So we don't want any of you to go out here try to do this on your own. There are a lot of coaches, like even Coach Derek James, one of the top trainers in the world, also refers to stuff. And once he was introduced to me years ago, he understood that there are people out there that support him, because I support all these coaches, because you guys don't know what they go through on a day-to-day basis. But my job, from my lineage, I'm third generation. You know, you got Coach Adams, Coach Bradley, and then Coach Bradley again. See, I had to contribute something that I knew that you knew you needed, because I know I needed it. I needed to ask questions about how in the fuck do I do this stuff? You know, like I need to know exactly what I need to know. I didn't know 100% what I should do with a fighter every single different set. I'm in there working with fighters, and then there were world class fighters coming in, and here my green ass is in there. I don't know what to fucking do when Ray Mercer walk in our gym. Oliver McCall, people who have already won titles. Dude just was in a fight with, fight of the year with Evander Holyfield. How do I know what to do? I don't know shit about boxing. And then it dawned upon me I'm working with the greatest mind in boxing. He's Olympic coach right now. And it's up to me to continue to acquire the knowledge. He can give you a tip, he can tell you something, but if you ever bring a tip to a fight, you don't realize one thing. There's already a counter, and there always is a counter to the tip that you was on Instagram learning. So therefore, I had to make sure that there was a place that the person would learn not only a tip, but what happens after that tip. Because if you didn't know the skill that you learn from Instagram or Facebook, you damn sure don't know how to get out of the situation that it's going to get you in. Think about that. Think about that. You're watching different skills and you're using them. But if you get into the ring against a master boxing fighter, what's going to happen is we're going to take that and strip you down and make you pay because you didn't understand what comes from using that skill. And the counter is the most important thing, understanding that they're prepping you. And we're laughing because we're like, look at him. He's trying to drop and roll. Do your thing. Half step back, hook right hand, good night, sweet prince. That's what happens. Remember, listen to that. Half step back, slip to the right, left hand straight right down the pipe. Good night, sweet prince. So be careful about that. So how do I fix that? I had to go back and help myself 20 years ago. So that's why we got such a robust kind of product for the people who are coaches, because you're going to go into situations. Derek James was in a situation, Robert Garcia was in a situation that he couldn't tell his fighter what to do that would work. And so that's when you have to know how to get into the mind of the fighter and get to where he is. Know how much fear that's instilled in him at that moment. And that's when you have to do what we call Jedi mind trick. All right. This is where this thing called osmosis comes into play. That's higher level stuff. I worked up under a guy who had already worked with 15 world champions, top guys. And in a moment of truth, when he couldn't create that osmosis between him and our fighter, he turned to me in my first title fight, which was my first fight by the ring, and said, talk to him. And here I am, like I said, green as fuck. But I remember what my gift is. My gift is communication. That's how because I can understand where that fighter is in his mind, in his heart. And I spit a tone out to him, and he nodded, but while looking at the fighter that was in front of him, taking the opportunity away from us. And he got back to the corner and he was like, I got it. And in the next round, went out there, not only did what he needed to do by stick the jab out there, but got the knockout. We win the title in the third round, knockout. All right. That is a serious scenario. So that also gave me affirmation that this is what I was here to do. I never got an opportunity to be in the ring, but I was a kid. I wasn't a trouble kid, but I got in a whole lot of fights. So I knew how to fight. I had the instinct. I understood it. If I could master the art of learning boxing from Olympic coaches and men who birthed over 200 champions collectively, if I could learn this process, I will be an absolute animal. And I did. And that's what I'm here to help. That's why guys like Derek James and all of these coaches who are very good coaches. Coach Julio, I mean, Coach Diaz, Tim Bradley's former trainer, all of those guys, they are in a circle with me. You know, Dyer Davis, all these great minds, they need people who understand what they are going through. I understand what they are going through. I understand what the fighters going through. I'm a voice, and they call me a tacticianer. I can change the game and the complexity of a fight. Period. I've done it, but I know how difficult it is. So some of you are thinking you can pick up boxing and it's just a thing. You see these guys throwing mitts. Man, I'm gonna tell you, it's a whole lot of stuff you don't know. You get what I'm saying? It's a whole lot of stuff you don't know. I'm gonna give you an example. All of y'all follow my page or the channel because you're seeing things you didn't know, but you just didn't know how much of it was. Now imagine this is what you don't know. This is what you don't know is coming at you. That's 27 books full of stuff. Those are scenarios that I experienced in over the 40 championship training camps that I was in. I came in an advisor. I came in as strategy. I came in as, trainer. I came in as tacticianer. I've come in so many roles. I also sold major tickets for these things too, because I knew how to promote the people, the game, the fight, the fighters. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm promoting boxing in a major kind of way. So when you understand how and what these guys are going to face and how it's going to look and what they should do, we put all that in our book. All those books are loaded with, and it's layer by layer. It's a constant learning curve. And that's why we want the athletes and the fighters and the trainers to know it's a real game out there. No, you're not going to have success in boxing. No, you're not. Mister, I boxed for 2 weeks in the amateurs and I want to go pro. You're going to be an opponent. I promise that's all you're going to be. But how do you not become an opponent? You learn the process. You can't throw a football in the backyard and think you can go play in the NFL. You're going to find out there's a million guys 100 times faster. So you just want to preface everything and understand what are you facing actually, and be prepared for that stuff. And never ever underestimate what's coming. That's right. Boxing 101. Special shouts out to my people watching on YouTube. Identify yourself. Make sure you're known. But it's really important that you guys know that we're going to be doing these conversations, boxing, business to politics. And I want to educate you all. And we always open the door for people to take advantage of not getting caught out on Quiz Street, and not be so hard on these guys, these trainers who are out here working, because you can't imagine how much stuff they got to keep right here and where they got to be to dedicate their lives to these individuals. We get up here and we do shows, but what we're doing is promoting boxing. But we're not here to down fighters. We're not here to hurt people's feelings. We're just here to serve. If there's a trainer that has a bad night because he wasn't prepared, I take it as it's my fault. I didn't get him my material. Not a lot of guys can say they've been in over 40 training camps, let alone titles, national championships, a slew. I can't even count the amount of golden gloves that we're responsible for. But I do know this. I take it I take it personally. If I look at a fight, whether it's on pay-per-view or not, and I have not had any connection with that coach, because what he had to do was a simple adjustment. And that's one of the things that's in the art of sparring and the skills training. You got to know how to adapt. So there's a special section just on making adjustments. If this is happening to you, you're getting pushed back. Here's what you do. Step one, elude the first punch, crouch, dip, get low, and shoot to the hips. Grab, turn, push them, walk them, and create space all over again. and rinse and repeat that. Like, see, it's right there. It's like a quarterback sleep. And so that's kind of what we've done. And that's what I did upwards of 30 years. The first 10 years, it was writing and getting these things printed and done and experiences. Everybody that's relevant from heavyweight down to, you know, lightweight, those experiences, that's what's in the book. Specific skills that I got from one of the greatest amateurs and another one of the greatest amateurs and guys who's mastered winning in the national tournaments. And I take all of these skills and compile them into a system of boxing and experiences. And I was blessed to be able to be looked at and seen as an asset for coach to say, hey, I want you running my program. Boom. And not only I'm not going to be the head coach, you're going to be the head coach. So imagine that being placed as head coach. There's head coach and then there's the coach. And that was my role, head coach. Over all these guys who had more experience than me, I had guys. So that's what you got to know about boxing. And there's politics in it. Yeah. And so we're going to get into some of that stuff, how to craft your way to get up in rankings by knowing what you need to know in order to get there. And so if you want to learn more about that, continue to follow the show. We'll be on next Wednesday, exactly the same time. We will do a fight show. Tim Zoo is fighting coming up. So we'll do something post-fight. We'll discuss it. And I know all of you are trying to either learn something about boxing, whether you're here to protect yourself or you actually have fighters, and a lot of you guys from the martial arts world. And we want you to know in boxing, and I'm going to tell you the honest truth. You got to be at a certain level in boxing to actually get the briefcase cracked and learn. If you're from martial arts, I don't care if you got boxing guys around you, especially the fighters, they didn't never get all the way into the briefcase because your mentor is here to just tell you enough to keep you guessing. But see, it took over 20 years to craft what I got. So I got the secrets of boxing. I've been passed down knowledge from the greats like Tony Zell, Archie Moore, personally from the family. Matthew Saad Muhammad, all the greatest minds, the greatest mind in boxing ever, Coach Kenny Adams, that tree, and then my dedication. So to you, I want you to know if you're focusing on growing and doing this thing, you got to find out, you got to know there's a lot to it that you don't know. And that's what we're here for. Most of you out there watching, you know where we are. We got a School of Boxing group. Go over there. You got to register to get in there. You get in there and you learn. And the process for you other coaches want to know that skill and a real proven system, not some guy who started a channel doing a bunch of moves. Bless them. I want them to be successful too. But if you know, I need that right stuff. I need that stuff that I know work and the answers to that stuff, type skills, and get your game up, because the game of boxing, it's a lot to it. It's a business, and it's up the side of it that's politics, and then there's understanding how to move through it. So if you're a trainer and that's where you are, you want to get yourself to that level, do what you need to do and keep it locked, because all of these scenarios are happening right in front of your face. So pay close attention. Until next time, that's all I got. Coach Bradley, and I'm signing out. Business of Boxing. I'll see you next week in the winner's circle. Be blessed at Godspeed. Special shouts out to all of my brothers in the School of Boxing Top Training You program. Only to the sky from here. We've sacrificed, and it's time to win. Win big. Peace out, guys.